Hi, this is Sid with THEPHONOLOOP, and in this video we're going to look at the sequencer and layer controls and outlines. Before we start, I'm going to load a combination of built-in sound sources and user samples into the 4 sound slots. You can open the sequencer page by either clicking on the tab here or by using the tab down here. There's a lot to cover, so we'll go through everything one by one. Firstly, let's play a few notes. As you can see, each new note will move the sequence forward by 1 step, and the sequence will reset if there are no notes playing. Each of these rows controls a parameter applied to the given step, and the value can be changed by dragging that step up or down. You can do this across multiple steps by dragging across the row. The entire row can also be increased or decreased by using the plus or minus buttons here, or randomized using the square button. Let's now see what each of these rows do. To demonstrate each one clearly, I'll reset each row as we move through them. We'll start with the sound slot row at the top, which features 3 tabs. By default, this row controls which sound slot will play on each step. You can also change which part of the sample is played on the step, more on this in a moment, or choose which steps will have their sounds reversed. Next, we have the waveform window, which can be opened here. When you play a note, the waveform of the current step is shown on the display. Below that, you have controls to change the start point of the sample or the randomization of the start point. For samples with parts, you'll see the 4 parts on the display, like so. These can be chosen per step with the Part tab we mentioned earlier. If you want to use a sound source that has parts, you can filter them in the Sources window. Make sure to check out our previous video for that. This is the volume row, and it does exactly what you'd expect. This is the transpose row, which offsets the pitch of the step. You can adjust this up or down in both semitones for coarse control and sense to fine-tune the note. This is the flex row, which is a modulation source that can be assigned to various controls and outlines. In this case, I have it changing the amount of filter envelope for each step. We'll cover the full modulation system and outlines with the next video. Now let's take a quick break from the rows and talk more about how the sequencer moves. We know it moves a step forward with each note played, but we can do more than that. On the right side of the page, you'll see controls to change the start step of the sequence and the sequence length. These controls exist independently for each row, and as such, you can create a constantly changing sequence very easily. You can also change the direction the sequencer moves with the step assignment menu in the bottom bar. The last two rows are currently unavailable, and that's because we've been using the sequencer in single mode so far. The sequencer being in single mode is represented by the solid circle here. However, you can switch the sequencer to animated mode using this button, which will make it move through the steps automatically. The speed of the sequence can be changed with the main time control here. Time can be set in either absolute intervals, like milliseconds, seconds, so on, or synced intervals, like quarter notes, eighth notes, and so on. Click the note icon in the bottom left corner to switch between the two. Now that we've put the sequencer in animated mode, the last two rows are available. This is the modifier row, which will change different parameters depending on which main outlines mode you have selected. At the moment, this row is changing the volume shape of each step. Here, you can change the gate length of the notes, and the envelope icons on the left change the fade in and fade out time of the notes. This is the time row. This row gives you 4 options to change something about each step's timing. The options are slack, sequencer, interval, and divide. Just note, only one of these can be active at a time. You can also disable the row by clicking Time Off. Slack makes the length of a step a division or multiplication of the main time. Sequencer shortens the length of a step by making it a percentage of the main time. Interval does something similar, but instead of shortening the step, it repeats until the next step normally would have come. Lastly, divide slices the step into equal parts and repeats the note for each part. The waveform window also gets additional controls when the sequencer is in animated mode. These are the scan controls, which allow you to change the start point of the sample with each step in a more structured way than the randomization control. Click the arrow here to decide the direction of the scanning, and use the rate and range controls to determine how quickly and drastically the scanning happens. Now that we've got a grip on the sequencer controls, let's go even further by switching the main outlines mode to duets. You can now see there are 2 tabs near the bottom bar, one for the layer A sequencer and one for the layer B sequencer. These 2 sequences are completely independent from each other. The sequencer rows, the start steps and sequence lengths, the main time controls, the step assignments, and the playing modes, either single or animated, can all be unique to each layer. Let's now run through the other important layer controls in the bottom bar. For clarity, I'll set layer A to only play slot 1, and layer B to only play slot 2. We've already covered the main time controls and step assignments, so we won't go through those again. A quick reminder that each layer can be switched from either single or animated mode using these buttons, and the mode they're in is shown with these icons. 1 circle for single mode, and 2 circles for animated mode. You can also click these icons to disable or re-enable the layer. This control is the wait slider, which determines how long layer B will wait to play after a key is pressed. If you set this slider to anything above 0, the Layer A Cut button will also appear. If active, this button will mute Layer A after Layer B starts playing. To the left, you'll find the amp envelope section. Here, you'll find the attack, decay, and release times for each of the layer's amp envelopes. When the layer is in single mode, like Layer A here, the envelope will apply to each step of the sequence. When the layer is in animated mode, like Layer B here, the envelope will apply to the sequence as a whole, instead of each individual step. We've now covered basically everything there is to know about the sequences and layer controls. Let's combine all of this to create a sound from scratch. I'm going to leave Layer A in single mode, as I want this layer to act as the transient part of my sound. I'll randomize the slots in the sound slot row and the cents on the transpose row to create a subtle variation between each note played. I'll also turn the release time up on the amp envelope for this layer to let the sample ring out a bit. Now, I'll unmute Layer B. I want this layer to create a much more abstract and textural part of the sound, so I'll completely randomize every row in this layer's sequencer. I'll also increase both the attack and release time for this layer's amp envelope to give it a pad-like quality.